The 6 feet 6 inches MMA giant grabbed Jackie Chan by the collar of his shirt and shoved him backward into the weight rack, dumbbells clattering off the shelf like loose teeth. Jackie hit the metal frame, caught himself with one hand, and looked up at a man who outweighed him by 100 pounds and clearly wanted everyone in the room to know it. What happened in the next 45 seconds would become Hong Kong fitness legend, a story whispered about for decades in every martial arts gym from Kowloon to Hollywood. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Believe me, you need the full picture to understand why this moment mattered. So let me take you back. It was 1998. Jackie Chan was 44 years old. He'd just wrapped filming on Rush Hour, the movie that would turn him from an Asian cinema god into a global household name. But here's the thing about Jackie Chan that most people don't understand. The man trained every single day. Not the Hollywood kind of training where a guy does bicep curls for an Instagram post. Jackie Chan trained like a man possessed because every stunt in every movie was real. Every fall, every hit, every broken bone, and he'd broken almost all of them by that point. His body was a roadmap of fractures, torn ligaments, dislocated shoulders, and cracked ribs. He trained through pain because pain was just Tuesday for him. He didn't talk about it. He just showed up. This particular gym was in Hong Kong, tucked into the basement of a building in Tsim Sha Tsui. It wasn't fancy. Concrete floors, iron weights, a couple heavy bags in the corner, the kind of place where serious people went to do serious work. Jackie liked it because nobody bothered him there. The owner was an old friend. The regulars knew who he was, gave him a nod, and left him alone. That was the deal. Now, on this particular afternoon, Jackie was working on flexibility. He was on the floor doing deep stretches, splits, loosening his hips. He was wearing a plain white t-shirt and black training pants. No entourage, no cameras. Just a man in his mid-40s keeping his body from falling apart. And that's when the door opened, and in walked Marcus Voss. Get this. Marcus Voss was 6'6", 260 pounds of muscle, built on a frame that looked like someone had designed a human being specifically for violence. He was a German-born MMA fighter who'd been tearing through the underground fighting circuit in Southeast Asia. He'd fought in Bangkok, Manila, Singapore. He had a record of 14 wins by knockout or submission and 0 losses. His specialty was something he called controlled destruction, which was just a fancy way of saying he grabbed people, slammed them on the ground, and either choked them out or elbowed them until they stopped moving. Voss had a crew with him. 3 guys, all fighters, all big, all carrying gym bags, and that particular energy that fills a room when people walk in expecting to own it. They were loud. They took up space. They dropped their bags on the floor near the heavy bags and started wrapping their hands. Jackie didn't look up. He kept stretching. Now here's what nobody tells you about what happened next. It wasn't Marcus who started the trouble. It was one of his guys, a stocky Brazilian named Davi, who fought at middleweight and had a mouth that fought at heavyweight. Davi spotted Jackie on the floor, nudged Marcus, and said something in Portuguese that made all 3 of them laugh. Marcus looked over, recognized Jackie, and that's when his whole face changed. See, Marcus Voss had a problem with movie martial artists. He'd said it in interviews. He'd posted about it online. This was the late 90s, and MMA was still in its raw, ugly, prove-it-or-shut-up phase. Guys like Marcus believed that traditional martial arts were a joke, that kung fu was choreography, that anyone who made their living doing flying kicks on camera would fold in 30 seconds against a real fighter. He'd said it about Steven Seagal. He'd said it about Jean-Claude Van Damme. And he'd definitely said it about Jackie Chan. So when Marcus Voss looked across that basement gym and saw Jackie Chan sitting on the floor in a split, he didn't see a legend. He saw an opportunity. Marcus walked over. His shadow fell across Jackie's legs. Jackie looked up. "Jackie Chan," Marcus said, and the way he said it made the name sound small. "I watch your movies. Very funny, very entertaining." Jackie nodded. "Thank you." He started to stand up. "Tell me something," Marcus said, stepping closer. "You ever fight someone who fights back?" Jackie was on his feet now, and standing next to Marcus, the size difference was almost comical. Jackie was 5'8" on a generous day. Marcus had 10 inches and 100 pounds on him. Jackie's hands were relaxed at his sides. He took a half step to his left, a casual movement that put the weight rack at his back instead of open space. Most people wouldn't have noticed. I noticed because I've watched the security footage of this moment probably 50 times. And that half step is the first sign that Jackie Chan was already thinking 3 moves ahead. I've been hit many times, Jackie said. Plenty of things hit back: concrete, glass, moving cars. A couple of the regulars in the gym had stopped what they were doing. I swear this happened exactly how the witnesses described it. The room got tight. Not because anyone thought Jackie was in danger, but because they could feel that Marcus wanted something. And what he wanted wasn't a conversation. That's movie stuff, Marcus said. I'm talking about a real fight. A man in front of you who wants to hurt you. You ever deal with that? Jackie tilted his head, his jaw tightened. He glanced at Marcus's wrapped hands, then back at his face. Why do you want to know? Because I think it's dishonest, Marcus said, and now his voice was carrying, playing to the room. I think you show the world something fake and they believe it. Kids believe it. They think Kung Fu is real because of you, and it's not. It's dancing. Jackie picked up his water bottle from the floor, took a slow sip, and set it down on the bench. He didn't rush. He didn't get loud. But his feet shifted, and now he was standing with his weight centered, balanced, ready to move in any direction. You're entitled to your opinion, Jackie said. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. Marcus turned to his crew. Davi was filming with a small camcorder, and this is where some of the footage that later leaked online originally came from. Show me one thing, Marcus said, turning back to Jackie. One real technique, something that would work against me. Right now, I'll stand still, I won't even fight back. Just show me something real. And here's where it gets interesting. Trust me on this. Jackie could have walked away. He had every reason to. He was a global movie star. He had nothing to prove. Getting into a confrontation with an underground MMA fighter in a basement gym was exactly the kind of situation his management would have lost their minds over. One injury and Rush Hour's promotional tour would be derailed. One bad moment caught on camera, and the tabloids would eat him alive for weeks. But Jackie Chan didn't walk away. And the reason he didn't walk away is the reason this story is still told today. Jackie looked at Marcus, looked at the camera Davi was holding, and then did something nobody expected. He laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a polite laugh, a real full-body laugh, the kind that crinkled his eyes and shook his shoulders. And then he said, "Okay." Marcus blinked. He hadn't expected agreement. "You stand still?" Jackie asked. "I stand still." "You don't move?" "I don't move." "Okay." Jackie walked toward Marcus, and the gap between them closed to about 3 feet. The regulars in the gym moved back. The owner, a man named Wei, who later gave the most detailed account of what happened, said he almost stepped in at this point, but something about Jackie's posture told him to wait. Jackie reached out and placed his open palm flat against Marcus's chest. Just rested it there. Marcus looked down at the hand, then looked at Jackie with an expression that managed to communicate both amusement and contempt. "This is your technique?" Marcus said, and Jackie pushed him. "Now, listen. I need you to understand something about what a push means when it comes from someone who has spent their entire life studying body mechanics, leverage, and force. This wasn't a shove. It wasn't a movie move. Jackie's push came from his back foot, traveled through his hip rotation, channeled through a locked shoulder, and delivered through his palm at a slightly upward angle directly into Marcus's sternum. Marcus Voss, 6'6", 260 pounds, stumbled backward 3 full steps. His heel caught the edge of a floor mat, and he nearly went down. He caught himself on the pull-up bar frame, and the look on his face was something between shock and fury. The gym went dead quiet. Here's the thing about that moment. Marcus had promised to stand still. He hadn't braced. He hadn't set his weight. And Jackie had used that against him perfectly. But here's what mattered more. Marcus Voss was embarrassed. He was embarrassed in front of his crew, in front of the camera, and in front of a room full of people who had just watched a man half his size move him like a piece of furniture. And embarrassment in a man like Marcus Voss was gasoline. Marcus straightened up. His neck flushed red. He pulled his hands out of the wraps he'd been putting on and tossed them on the floor. "Okay," he said. "Okay, that was cute. Now let's do it for real." Jackie's expression changed. The laughter was gone. His chin dropped a fraction. His feet adjusted. He brought his hands up, not into fists, but open, palms facing forward, fingers slightly curved. It was a Wing Chun centerline guard, and anyone who knew what they were looking at understood that Jackie Chan had just shifted from being a friendly movie star into something else entirely. "I don't want to fight you," Jackie said. "Of course you don't. Not because I'm afraid, because there's no reason for it." Marcus rolled his shoulders. "The reason is right here. The reason is I'm standing in front of you and I'm telling you your whole career is a lie. That's the reason." This is the part most people get wrong when they tell this story. They say Jackie attacked first. He didn't. They say Marcus threw a punch. He didn't. Not at first. What actually happened, and this comes from from two other gym regulars, and from the camcorder footage that Davi was still rolling on, is that Marcus stepped forward and grabbed Jackie by the collar of his shirt. That's the shove into the weight rack I told you about at the beginning. We've come full circle. Now you know why it happened. Jackie hit the weight rack, dumbbells scattered, and Marcus held onto his collar with his left hand and cocked his right fist back. This was the moment. Right here. No kidding. This was the moment where everything changed. Because Jackie didn't try to break the grip. He didn't struggle. He didn't pull away. Instead, he did something that only a person with 40 years of martial arts training burned into their nervous system would do instinctively. He stepped into Marcus. Not away. Into him. He closed the distance to 0, which meant Marcus's cocked right hand now had no room to generate power. You can't punch someone who's pressed against your chest. At the same time, Jackie's right hand came up and cupped the back of Marcus's neck, pulling his head down. His left hand grabbed Marcus's right wrist, the one holding his collar, and rotated it outward. The grip broke. Marcus's balance shifted forward because Jackie had pulled his head down, and suddenly a man who was used to towering over everyone was bent at the waist, his face at Jackie's shoulder level, and then Jackie swept his legs. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a flying kick or a spinning technique or anything you'd see in a movie. Jackie hooked his right foot behind Marcus's left ankle and pulled while simultaneously pushing Marcus's upper body in the opposite direction. Basic physics. Top goes one way, bottom goes the other. The bigger you are, the harder this works. Marcus Voss hit the concrete floor with a sound that made everyone in the room wince. His shoulder took the impact. His head bounced off the mat's edge. And before he could process what had happened, Jackie had stepped back, out of range, hands up, balanced and ready. The whole exchange took maybe 4 seconds. Marcus got up, slowly. He put his hand to the back of his head and checked for blood. There was none, but you could see a welt already forming on his shoulder where it hit the floor. His crew had gone silent. Davi's camera was shaking slightly. Now, this is where most stories would have the hero deliver a speech. Some cool one-liner, some philosophical lesson about respect. But you have to remember who we're talking about. Jackie Chan didn't become a legend by talking. He became a legend by doing. Jackie stood there, hands still up, feet still set, and waited. Marcus got to his feet fully. He was breathing hard, not from exertion, but from adrenaline and anger. He cracked his neck, rolled his shoulders, and then he charged, for real this time. Marcus came in low, shooting for Jackie's legs. A classic MMA double-leg takedown. If he got hold of Jackie, the fight would go to the ground, and on the ground, Marcus's size advantage would be overwhelming. This was textbook. This was what Marcus had used to destroy 14 opponents. Jackie sprawled. His hips dropped, his legs kicked back, and his weight came down on Marcus's upper back. Marcus's hands grabbed at Jackie's thighs but couldn't lock in. Jackie used his forearm across the back of Marcus's neck, driving his face toward the floor, and then spun to the side, slipping out of the grapple entirely. Marcus scrambled up, reset, and threw a straight right. It was fast for a man his size, really fast, and it caught Jackie on the left shoulder as Jackie slipped right. Jackie's body rotated with the impact instead of absorbing it, and as Marcus's arm extended past him, Jackie grabbed the wrist, stepped under the arm, and hyperextended Marcus's elbow with a standing armbar. Marcus screamed. Not a yell, not a grunt, a scream. The sound cut through the gym and bounced off the concrete walls. Jackie held the lock for exactly 1 second. Then he released it and stepped back again. Marcus pulled his arm in, clutching his elbow. His face was white. His crew was frozen. Davi lowered the camera. Cross my heart. What happened next is the part that turns this from a fight story into a legend. Jackie dropped his guard. Just dropped it completely. Hands at his sides. Relaxed posture. He looked at Marcus Voss, this enormous fighter who was cradling a hyperextended elbow and breathing through his teeth. And Jackie's expression wasn't triumph. It wasn't aggression. It wasn't even satisfaction. It was concern. "Are you okay?" Jackie asked. And he meant it. You could hear it in his voice. The fight was over, and he genuinely wanted to know if this man who had just attacked him was injured. Marcus stared at him. His jaw worked. His eyes were wet, and whether that was from the pain in his elbow or something else entirely, nobody could say. But in that moment, something cracked in Marcus Voss. Not his arm, his certainty. He'd spent years building a worldview that said movie martial artists were frauds. That traditional training was useless. That size and strength and ground and pound were the only real currencies in a fight. And in under 20 seconds, a 44-year-old man who was giving away 10 inches and 100 pounds had put him on the floor, nearly broken his arm, and then asked if he was all right. You can see on the footage, and yes, this footage exists. It leaked online around 2003 and has been taken down and re-uploaded dozens of times since. You can see Marcus Voss standing there processing something his brain didn't have a category for. And then Marcus did something that shocked everyone in that room more than anything Jackie had done. He bowed. Not a deep, dramatic bow. Just a nod of the head, a slight bend at the waist, the universal gesture of one fighter acknowledging another. His crew looked at each other. Davi almost dropped the camera. Jackie bowed back. Same depth, same respect. And then Jackie said the line that would be repeated in every martial arts gym that heard this story for the next 25 years. 7 words. Quiet. Simple. The body remembers what the ego forgets. That landed in the room, and nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Jackie picked up his water bottle, took a sip, collected his towel from the bench, and walked toward the back of the gym where Wei had a small office. But the story doesn't end there. Here's what you don't know. What nobody talks about. Marcus Voss followed him. Not aggressively. Not with his crew. He left Davi and the others by the heavy bags and walked back to Wei's office alone. Jackie was inside, sitting on a folding chair, pressing an ice pack against his left shoulder where Marcus's punch had landed. Because here's the reality that the legend often leaves out. That punch hurt. Jackie was 44. His body was held together by willpower, training, and whatever painkillers he could take without dulling his reflexes. He'd won the encounter, but he'd felt every bit of it. Marcus stood in the doorway. Jackie looked up. "I owe you an apology," Marcus said. Jackie moved the ice pack to his other hand. "Sit down." Marcus sat on a wooden crate against the wall. The two of them were in a room the size of a closet, the biggest and the smallest fighters you could imagine, and Marcus said something that Wei, who was standing just outside the door, remembered word for word. "I've been fighting for 6 years. I've beaten everyone they put in front of me, and I walked in here thinking you were a joke. I thought everything you did was fake. I need you to know that I was wrong, and I'm telling you that not because you beat me, but because of how you beat me. You could have hurt me. The armbar, you had full extension. You could have snapped it. Why didn't you?" Jackie put the ice pack down. He flexed his shoulder, testing the range. "Because breaking your arm doesn't teach you anything. You feel the lock, you know it's real, and now you know. That's enough." Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, lower, something underneath it that sounded almost fragile, which was a strange thing coming from a man built to inflict damage. "My father was a boxer," Marcus said. "Back in Hamburg. He used to tell me that fighting was about destroying the other person before they could destroy you. I've carried that my whole life. Everything I do in the cage is about destruction. And you just showed me something completely different. You controlled me without trying to break me. I didn't even know that was possible." Jackie leaned forward. "Your father, was he a good boxer?" "He was decent, never made it professionally." "Did he teach you to box?" "He taught me to hit. That's all he knew." Jackie nodded slowly. "My master taught me the same thing when I was 7 years old. Hit, kick, take the pain, don't cry. I spent 30 years thinking that was all martial arts was, violence with discipline. But then I started doing movies, and I had to learn something different. I had to learn how to control the space between two people. In a movie, if you actually hit someone, the scene is ruined. So you learn precision. You learn distance. You learn to move around another person without hurting them. And somewhere in that process, I realized that controlling the space is harder than filling it with punches, and it works better. Marcus looked at his elbow. It was swelling slightly, but the joint was intact. Jackie had been precise, devastatingly, surgically precise. "Would you show me?" Marcus asked. "Not now. I mean, would you let me come train with you, even once? I want to understand what you did." No lie. This is where the story breaks most people's expectations. Because Jackie Chan said yes. He gave Marcus his private training schedule. He told him to come back Thursday at 6 in the morning. He told him to come alone, no crew, no cameras, and to bring an open mind. Marcus Voss came back that Thursday, and the Thursday after that. And for 6 weeks, whenever Jackie was in Hong Kong, Marcus showed up at 6 a.m. and trained with him. Wei confirmed this. Other gym regulars saw it. 2 professional fighters, separated by every physical metric you can imagine, working together on a concrete floor in a basement gym. What Marcus learned during those sessions changed his fighting career. He didn't become a kung fu master. That's not how this works. But he incorporated elements of control, misdirection, and economy of movement into his MMA game that made him a fundamentally different fighter. He went on to win his next 7 fights, but the way he won changed. He stopped pursuing knockouts. He started winning by decision, by positional dominance, by controlling his opponents so completely that they simply couldn't generate offense. Fight commentators started calling his style technical suffocation, which was ironic given where he'd learned it. In a 2001 interview with a German martial arts magazine, Marcus Voss was asked who his biggest influence was. He named 3 people: his father, his first MMA coach in Frankfurt, and Jackie Chan. When the interviewer pressed him on that, Marcus said, "Jackie Chan taught me that the strongest thing you can do to another person is choose not to hurt them when you could." That quote got circulated. It reached Jackie's team, and according to 2 separate sources close to Jackie's production company, Jackie read it, put down the magazine, and said nothing. He just went back to training. Now, let me tell you what happened to the footage. Davi, the Brazilian who'd been filming the whole thing, knew he had gold. In 1998, there was no YouTube, no social media, no instant upload. But there were martial arts forums, VHS trading networks, and underground fight tape distributors. Davi made copies of the tape and started selling them in Bangkok and Manila under the title Jackie Chan Real Fight Basement Gym. The quality was terrible. The audio was mostly gym noise and Portuguese cursing. But you could see it. You could see the shove into the weight rack. You could see the sweep. You could absolutely see the standing armbar that made Marcus Voss scream. The tape spread slowly through the late 90s and then exploded when file sharing hit the internet in the early 2000s. It became one of the most discussed pieces of martial arts footage of the decade, right alongside early UFC events and the famous Gracie Challenge tapes. Martial arts forums argued about it endlessly. Some people said it was staged. Some people said it was real, but that Marcus had been going easy. Some people said Jackie got lucky. But here's what settled the debate every single time: Marcus Voss himself. Whenever anyone questioned the footage, whenever a forum poster claimed it was choreographed, Marcus would show up, either in person at events or online in comments, and confirm it. Every detail. He never once tried to minimize what happened. He never made excuses. He said Jackie Chan put him on the floor and nearly took his arm, and that it was the most important moment of his fighting career. That's character, from both of them. Jackie never commented on the footage publicly. His management occasionally issued denials that any confrontation had occurred, which is standard celebrity damage control. But Jackie himself never denied it to anyone who asked him directly. He just changed the subject, or he'd say something deflective and funny, because that's who he is, and move on. But if you watch his movies after 1998, and I mean really watch them, you notice something subtle. The fight choreography changes, not drastically, not in ways a casual viewer would catch, but the movements become more efficient. The flashy wide kicks get replaced with tighter, closer techniques. The humor is still there, the props and the physical comedy, but underneath it there's a precision that wasn't as visible before. Some choreography historians attribute this to Jackie's aging body adapting to its limitations. And maybe that's part of it. But I think something else was happening. I think that encounter with Marcus Voss reminded Jackie Chan of something he'd always known but maybe hadn't fully leaned into, that real martial arts isn't about spectacle. It's about the smallest possible movement producing the largest possible result. Now, if you've made it this far, you already know this isn't just a fight story. This is a story about what happens when certainty meets mastery. Marcus Voss walked into that gym certain that he knew what fighting was. Jackie Chan didn't argue with him, didn't lecture him, didn't pull rank or name drop or flex his celebrity. He just showed him, 4 seconds on the clock, one sweep, one armbar, one question, "Are you okay?" And that's the thing about legends. They don't become legends because someone did something impressive. They become legends because someone did something that changed the way people think. Marcus Voss had his entire worldview reorganized by a man who was smaller, older, and supposedly fake, and instead of breaking, Marcus grew. He took the lesson, he applied it, he became better. If this story moved you, if it made you think about what real strength looks like, hit that subscribe button right now. I tell stories like this every week, stories about moments where everything changes in an instant, and I don't want you to miss the next one, because here's how this story ends. In 2004, Marcus Voss retired from fighting. He moved back to Hamburg, opened a martial arts academy, and started teaching MMA with a curriculum that included Wing Chun principles, something that would have made his younger self's head explode. Above the door of his gym, he hung a framed photo. It was a grainy still from Davi's camcorder footage, the moment right after Jackie swept him, when Marcus was on the ground looking up and Jackie was standing over him with his hands open, not in fists. Under the photo, Marcus had written one line: "The body remembers what the ego forgets." Jackie Chan is still training. He's 70 now. His knees are bad. His shoulders click when he raises his arms above his head. He's had more surgeries than most people have had haircuts, but every morning, wherever he is in the world, he wakes up, finds a space, and moves his body through the same forms he learned as a child. Slowly now, carefully, but with a precision that would still surprise you. And somewhere in a basement in Simshat-Sui, if the building hasn't been torn down and replaced with a luxury apartment tower, there's a concrete floor with a scuff mark near the weight rack. A place where a giant learned that size isn't strength, where a movie star proved he was the real thing, and where two men who should have been enemies became something closer to brothers. That's not a fight story. That's a legend. And now you've heard it the way it actually happened.